Everybody, to the February 15th meeting of the Temple Terrace Community Redevelopment Agency. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from November 16th?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any corrections to the minutes? Discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The minutes are approved. Next item is Business Relations Manager Greg Pauley will now present us with a status update on the city's redevelopment area. Welcome, Mr. Pauley.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Greg Pauley, Business Relations Manager. I'm here tonight with CRA update for current ongoings in the CRA. Tonight is the second of 4 regularly scheduled meetings throughout the course of the year for fiscal year 2022. You'll see on the screen there that the next scheduled CRA is May 17th, followed by the last regular scheduled meeting of the year, which will be August 16th. Just a brief history, the CRA was originally formed in September of 1999, consists of 225 acres, centered at the crossroads of Bush Boulevard and 56th Street, indicated on the map on the screen with the green circular icon. Zooming in on that same map, you can see our boundaries for the redevelopment area. This stretches as far to the west as our border with the city of Tampa, as far to the north as 98th Avenue, as far east as Ridgedale Road, and as far to the south as the Hillsborough River. This snapshot gives you a look at the base value for the CRA, which was established in 2004 for all of the parcels and properties that make up that 225 acres. In 2004, the base value was set at $62,978,340. To date, current fiscal year, the taxable increment value that has been added to that number is $58,163,810. Here we have a snapshot of the revenue budget for current fiscal year, showing revenue from Hillsborough County and the Tampa Port Authority to be, did we lose our presentation? There we go, thank you. To be $322,136, and internal city revenue transfers for $362,201, for a total revenue to the TIF for fiscal year 2022, $684,337. Currently, we're tracking 6 projects in the CRA. We have the Fountain Shops at Temple Terrace. We have the Waverly Terrace Luxury Apartments, the Enigma Plaza, Salem's Fresh Eats, Silvio Palms, and Overlook Oaks. Up first, we have the Fountain Shops, located on 2.5 acres in the southeast quadrant, just south of Bullard Parkway and east of 56th Street. The developer for this project is Paragon Property Group. We currently have 4 buildings on site. A 5th building is currently in the design phase. Within those 4 buildings, we have 3 businesses presently open and operating, and we have 4 additional spaces that are currently undergoing various stages of interior build-out. That 5th building I mentioned a moment ago in the design phase will be up along Bullard Parkway across from the CVS store. When complete, all 5 buildings, we've estimated the assessed value to be right about $4.25 million, which will add for that particular parcel of ground roughly $3.25 million to the taxable increment and yield an estimated $40,000 annually back into the TIF. Here we have Building A on the right, Chase Bank. Building B to the left, we have AT&T open and operating. Hand and Stone and Abbott's Frozen Custard right next to that, both currently undergoing interior build-outs. Moving a bit further to the south, we have Building C on the right. It'll be solely occupied by the Rockin' Crab Seafood Restaurant. And further to the south, we have Starbucks Coffee House on the southern end of Building D, soon to be neighbors with Jersey Mike's Sub Sandwich Shop, also presently going through interior build-out. Next up, we have the Waverly Terrace Luxury Apartments on 4.85 acres in the southeast quadrant. This project sits directly south of Bullard Parkway and just to the east of Bertha Palmer Boulevard. The developer here is the Richmond Group of Florida. The project involves 200 residential units spread through two four-story buildings. Also on the project is a community clubhouse and centrally located pool. When complete, this project has an estimated assessed value of roughly $24 million. This will add roughly $17.7 million to the taxable increment and yield an estimated $219,000 annually back into the TIF. This is a current shot of the north building. You can see that from the exterior position, it does appear to be pretty much finished, and it is on the exterior. They're still doing some interior finishings on that building. They are anticipating they gave me an updated TCO target date of next month. So it would have run from March of 2020 through March of 2022, which, given all of the challenges all of our projects are having right now, is not too far off their original target. And as most of you have heard before, the south building has always tracked about 3 to 4 months behind the north building. That's just the way they phased in their project. This is a current shot of the south building. You'll see that it is almost finished, but there's still a lot of details still yet to be finished on the exterior, and there's significant work to be done on the interior of that building yet. Next up, we have the clubhouse. The clubhouse is keeping pace with the north building. It is also anticipated to be ready for TCO next month. I know the slide says 90%. It's probably even more than that by now. The next project is the Enigma Plaza. The developer for this project is Enigma Realtors. This project sits on 2 acres in the southeast quadrant, south of Chicago Avenue and east of 56th Street. The project involves the redevelopment of a pre-existing structure at 8633 North 56th Street into 34,000 square feet of retail and dining space. Image on the right shows some of the steel work that's currently going on. Steel work is underway on the facade and the wraparound veranda. And according to the developer, a complete roof rebuild will commence immediately following the steelwork, which is estimated about 4 to 6 weeks out. When complete, it's estimated that this project will have an assessed value at a roughly $4.38 million, adding an additional $2.75 million to the taxable increment value of the CRA and yielding an estimated $34,000 annually back into the TIF. Next, we have the Salem's Quick Service Restaurant. This project is located on an out parcel in front of 5400 East Bush Boulevard. The exterior of the project is complete. The interior build-out is underway. I spoke to this developer just the day before yesterday. He too is, yesterday I spoke to him. He too is experiencing sourcing delays. You may recall he was targeting to be done by January 1st, and he's having issues getting some of his finishing materials as well. So it is spread across all of our projects. The interior build-out is underway, and parking lot improvements are currently also underway. He's amended his estimated completion. He's pushed it out about 2 to 3 months. When finished, it's estimated that his assessed value will be roughly slightly greater than $1 million, adding approximately $900,000 to our taxable increment value and returning an estimated yield back into the TIF of $11,000 annually. Next, we have the Silvio Palms residential project. This sits on 2.4 acres located in the northwest quadrant of the CRA. Near the intersection of Temple Heights Road and Overlook Drive, involves 12 single-family homes and a centrally located community park. As of now, they've begun to go vertical with some of their construction. The first home site actually is if you look at the image on the left, it's the concrete and block work vertical on the screen. That's actually site number 11, which is almost the northernmost site in that community. You can see the northernmost site just to the left. They've got the foundation framed out, and actually the picture to the right shows the site on the other side. So you can see they've started on that north end with their initial construction. This project involves 12 single-family residences, and for the purpose of my calculations and estimates, I tallied the lot sizes and the square foots for the homes, and I'm working with a average lot size of 4,570 square foot and an average home size of 1,750 square foot. Using those numbers, estimated assessed value when complete of all 12 homes will be approximately $2.65 million, and that will add approximately $2.57 million to the taxable increment value, yielding a return back into the TIF of roughly slightly under $32,000 annually. Next up, we have the Overlook Oaks project. This project was formerly referenced as the Grow Hope Village project. This is the parcel of ground that sits immediately behind the Grow Financial Institution on Bush Boulevard, Overlook and Bush. Sits on 0.61 acre parcel in the northwest quadrant on Overlook Drive, north of Bush Boulevard. It's another Habitat for Humanity project, which will include 4 single-family homes with a shared common space at the rear. And for purposes of this project, you'll see that the lot sizes are a little bit bigger. The average lot size is a little bit bigger, 5,180 square feet, and the home size is also a little bit bigger, 1,800 square feet. And working with those numbers across all 4 homes, when complete, it's estimated final assessed value of just a little more than $922,000, adding roughly $850,000 to the taxable increment value, and yielding a return back into the TIF of $10,500 annually. This slide has nothing to do with current projects. These are some past projects that I wanted to include because these are also recent completed projects that are contributing to the TIF as well. All the numbers on the left under assessed value are real numbers except the bottom one. That one has yet to be assessed. You may recall the duplex on Overlook Drive that received the addition. That's that project. It has not yet been assessed since the addition was completed. Everything else, what you're looking at there, everything else has an assessed value to it. So looking at the terrace storage on Bush Boulevard, we're looking at a return back into the TIF of $19.6 thousand. The Fresh and Fun restaurant in front of that same property, looking at a return back to the TIF of $10.2 thousand. The O'Reilly's Auto, also on Bush Boulevard, bringing in an additional $11.4 thousand. And finally, the one I just mentioned, the yet to be assessed. These are working with some of the comparative property values, setting it at $355,000, yielding a return to the TIF of $3.3 thousand. Remaining properties available in the CRA include the parcel 8901 North 56th Street, the parcel at 8447 North 56th Street, and the Riverside parcels at 205 South River Hills Drive, all located in the southeast quadrant. Here's the piece at 8901 North 56th Street. It's a 1.7 acre parcel immediately west of Waverly Terrace and south of the Fountain Shops. We've had some interest in this parcel, but at this time we do not have a proposal to bring to you. Next, we have the old restaurant parcel at 8447 North 56th Street. It sits on 1.74 acres. It's the old restaurant, the Indian restaurant, Curry Bowl. It sits south of Enigma Plaza, and you may recall back in October, we had two proposals come forward on this project. Both developers were asked to revise their projects and come back to us with something that would more appropriately fit the community.
Did they?
I'm going to be very careful how I respond to that because I've been in dialogue with them. And I don't want to infringe upon their options for negotiation. I can tell you that one of the two is still very interested. I've yet to receive any affirmation on the second. And without getting into details, I don't really want to share more than that right now. And finally, we have the Riverside parcels at 205 South River Hills Drive. This, as you recall, is a 4.4 acre parcel that consists of 8 upper parcels and 2 riverside parcels right there adjacent to the Hillsborough River, and has currently been, is in the process of being cleared to be repurposed for outdoor leisure activities. I do know that we had some questions come up on that particular piece last time, and Mr. Langfeld was kind enough to join me at tonight's meeting, so if you do have questions on that, he is here to answer those. I tried to get a good picture to show the clearing. Unfortunately, camera position is kind of far away, but they've done a lot of work on that site. It really looks good. It's nice and clean and clear. It's just my camera position is probably too far back. And before I open to questions, let me just close by saying you may recall sometime in the past I was in communications with Tampa Electric Company regarding electric vehicle charging stations in our redevelopment area. It is a tiered application process. I think I reported to you last time that we made that cut, and I just received another notice last week that we've made the very short list. So I will be meeting with officials from Tampa Electric on site in the redevelopment area the first week of next month to walk the area and allow them to evaluate, because they're not ready to commit to us that we have received final approval until they do the on-site field work. But we are definitely moving in the right direction. And with that said, I will stand for any questions you may have.
I have a couple questions. One, since you're on EVs, let me bring that up. One of the options, also, if I recall correctly, was the contract with a vendor who would potentially come out and install charging stations at our city buildings and so forth. And all we had to do was provide the space. They took care of the billing, they took care of all we did was give them space. Is that still viable?
I'm familiar with the option that you're referring to. I will tell you that I did have a couple of online meetings with that company. We made it past the first review. They didn't have much interest after that. They're just not really big in our area. That may change in the future, but that particular company is not big in the Central Florida area. So they're not really looking to move into our area right now.
Okay. Second question is, what's the status with our contract with Cushman and Wakefield?
I've spoken to Mr. Berman. He has expressed an interest not to renew the current agreement, which expires at the end of this month.
So what is our plan for that? Are we going to, are you going to bring other brokers to us, or are we going to put out an RFP, or are we going to put it out ourselves for notice of disposal, or what are we going to do?
I can tell you that I have shared this with the current acting city manager, and more from an informational position standpoint. My thoughts were to let the current contract expire And this will certainly be on my short list of things that I would want to discuss with the incoming interim. The last time it was done, it did go out to RFP.
I would think at the very least, we would want to put out a notice of disposal so that at least people know that we have property for sale. And then if we can identify another broker, then so be it. But I would think that might be a good course of action. What we don't want is this lull where have this gap where our contract expires with Cushman and Wakefield and we've done nothing.
Sure.
And our property's not even really on the market, and so we're just hoping that somebody comes to us. And if they do, then we have to then, at that point, initiate a notice of disposal, so we're slowing everything down.
Traditionally, on the notice of disposals, we have, and again, I'm speaking about the CR pieces. I know the Rolliston Ranch is a slightly different plan because that's not within the CRA restrictions and guidelines. Traditionally, from the CRA parcels, what we have done is we have tried to market and push out there to the community that these pieces are available. And then when the offers are viable, then we do a notice of disposal and open up the bid window. It might not serve the same purpose and point if we open it up and we publish a notice of disposal just arbitrarily. That might be something that we would want to discuss with a commercial broker first. Because if there's no interest, then, I hate to use a term, but you might be spinning your wheels.
Okay?
And it might not be the best delivery of that notice.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does. Council members, questions? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, it was a good presentation. I do have a couple of questions on your TIF calculations. The TIF incremental is going to be the total tax, or total ad valorem tax on that property? Is that what is your calculation
Are
showing?
you, I'm sorry, are you referring to the actual TIF yield or
The yield,
the
yes, the
incremental
The
value?
yield.
The yield is the TIF return back based on the incremental value.
Okay, so we won't split that with anybody, we get that, we get,
No, not the TIF. The TIF, we don't split, at least not until 2035
understand,
when
right,
it runs out.
that's all ours.
So that is all ours, yes.
So the TIF incremental, but the valuation that's used, could take, for example, Silvio Palms. I can't remember, was it 11 or 12 units?
Silvio is 12 homes.
So 12 homes, okay. I didn't think that the valuations for those units were $230,000 each. I mean, I thought they were more like in the 150,000 range.
The comparative that I used on those, give me 1 second, let me pull my notes. The comparative that I used to mark the Silvio Palms homes was the recently constructed single-family homes on Sunnyside. One came in at $248,000, one came in at $243,000, and the average home for Silvio, based on a slightly smaller footprint, came in at $220,000.
The numbers
That's
work.
the market's inflated right
Yeah,
now.
tell you what,
I'll give you a perfect example. It's not a residence, but it's a business in our community. You'll recall, or you may recall, when I started reporting on the Salem's QSR, it was valued at between $600,000 and $700,000.
Yeah.
It has now been valued at over $1 million, just in the last year and a half. So everything is,
I wouldn't get too
No, I
excited
know,
about
it's-
these numbers because they're going to come back.
they're going to come
that was
back.
gonna be my next question. We haven't shared these with finance. have we?
Yeah, but by the time we actually start collecting the TIF, that wave will be, so,
Just so we don't share these.
And I did, just so everyone knows, when I started this project, this has been quite some time in the making. I actually started this in November, trying to calculate the there's a lot of estimates involved with trying to calculate what the property appraiser is going to assess a property at. And in the interim, they actually updated their online data. So I actually had to go back because I was working with the 2021 numbers, and just recently, the 2022 numbers have just started to populate. So I've tried to give you the most accurate, up-to-date stuff I can give you. I'll be honest with you, that's a moving target because they're changing, they're updating that stuff every day.
Unbelievable. It's incredible. Just hope we don't plan on it. So, okay, that's all I have.
Anything else? Council members? Councilmember Abel.
My question's for Mr. Langfeld. About the parcel off of River Hills, what's the plan for parking in that area for people who want to visit that?
What the plan would be is to create a pervious surface, whether crushed concrete, crushed asphalt, lot roughly half the size of the parking lot that's at Scout Park, suitable to hold probably 8 to 12 cars. And it would be the same material that we use to create the walking paths around the park, and would be delineated with, James knows the term, uppy-downy fence. Some of that wooden split rail, I think, is another term for it, fence that would be used to surround it and contain the vehicles in that parking area. I would work with either Public Works or a concrete company to put in curb cuts into the curb and then traverse over the sidewalk there, pour 1 to 2 handicap spots out of concrete in that location as well for handicap access.
Okay, that addressed my concern about the curb cuts. I wasn't sure where the entrance on River.
Yes, there are no curb cuts there to drive a vehicle in, but those would be installed when we get to that point that we're putting the parking in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Don't sit down.
Councilmember Donahue.
You too.
Thank you. That was going to be my first question about the curb cuts, so that they're coming.
Yes, ma'am.
I know when we first got started, we were talking.
Microphone.
Your
Microphone.
mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. When we first started talking, we were talking about a rowing crew or somebody like that coming in and setting something. Has anything materialized, or has there been any conversation?
No, and that starts a kind of a different conversation. And Mayor, I know that your initial vision for that was to be a canoe, kayak type of access to the river. Now that everything's cleared out of there and we have a sight line as to what's actually there, putting in a floating dock is going to be extremely problematic without putting in a pier. Beyond the bank into the river, there is significant vegetation that grows in that area of the river for probably 150 feet. So to just put in a floating dock there off the bank and then a, articulating aluminum walkway from the bank isn't going to work in that location without building a pier. What I was going to come to you all with was to do that paddle park type of feature with the floating dock at River Hills Park, where we have that area on the east end of the boardwalk, which is adjacent to the Scout Park parking lot, which provides easy access. There's suitable water to put in a floating dock type of structure with, a aluminum pier to it. That would satisfy your desire to have, a canoe and kayak access from the banks of the river. River Hills Park is just going to work out a lot better. But I think there's still opportunities to develop that parcel at Riverside into an extremely nice green space. Now that everything's cleared out and we're looking at what that parcel actually looks like without all the undergrowth in there, now that all that's removed and they're starting the actual tree trimming process, that's actually a beautiful piece of property. There's one orange tree on that property, which I've actually eaten an orange off of, and they're quite delicious. So I've told the company that's doing the land clearing, do not cut that orange tree down.
Well, build a cage around that. That's
Yes, probably. So anyway, we're looking at some opportunities for just creating a very nice piece of passive green space, walking trails, gazebos, and I'm leery of starting to, we're about $30,000 into the tree work portion of this project now, and then the next step we're gonna start putting things in, you know, and as we start spending money to put things in, I'm leery of spending that money to put things in to have the rug yanked out from under me as we have a buyer, you know, getting ready to
Right.
to purchase that property. So I'm not sure if it's time to pump the brakes as we have some interested parties, or if I keep going full speed ahead with.
Well, I think it's obviously up to council, but I think a couple things, just from my perspective. I'm sorry, were you done?
I have a few more questions, but please.
Oh,
Continue with
okay.
this. No,
I don't
no,
mean to jump
continue.
on you, but-
You're not,
okay.
go ahead.
First of all, I think if we're talking about 30 grand in and you're, you know, whatever, I think we can risk the cost of the parking area and your trails and stuff like that. I mean, we start building structures or something like that, then we need to make some decisions about what we're gonna do permanently. But I think we always knew that we were going to be risking this to get some use out of it. I mean, somebody comes and offers us $5 million for it, we'll probably say, well, we lost 30 grand but we're gonna take the $5 million, you know. That would be my guess, is to continue with what you're doing. I think personally, I think on terms of putting a floating dock or a paddle park launch, I think maybe that's what we kind of put a placeholder on that. We've got a lot of balls in the air right now with city managers and interim city managers, and maybe now's not the time to make that decision. And we've got budget coming up too. We don't have the money to do that anyway. So,
There's a lot I can
there's
do
a-
out there without taking that step that will still create a very nice property for the residents in the area to enjoy.
right. So that's just my take on it. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump.
No, you didn't. It doesn't have to be a launch park. We
Right.
didn't know, like you said. We thought that's what it would be because we didn't see what was there. I think it's great that it's just going to be a beautiful piece of river for people to enjoy. I mean, that was the whole reason we pulled it. So that's good. So I will make sure that I don't tell anybody that anymore, that it's a possibility. I do know that we just had an Eagle Scout finish a project just in the Scout Park area too. So there are going to be quite a few places for people to launch, and that's good that we're looking in that direction. I do want to make sure, though, that we keep saying this is available. Are we putting it out there as if it's fully available, even though we're using it ourselves? Okay.
I've met with two separate development teams in the last 2 weeks on that particular parcel. This is kind of an inside joke that the gentleman to my left and I have. I'm trying to sell it and he's trying to keep it. So it's kind of an inside joke amongst us. But to answer your question, we do have interest in the parcel. We do not have a proposal to bring to you at this time.
And at this, I don't want to jump the gun, but at this point, you feel confident that this would be something that we would scrap? I'm on your side, Carl. That we would scrap the park?
Honestly, I don't have a proposal to share with
Okay,
you, so
all right.
it's too premature at
Okay,
this point to
right.
even,
Well, there's another one that called me today with interest in that, and I don't even have any idea. I haven't talked to them, so I don't know what they want. So I haven't connected you with them yet. So all of a sudden, there's this interest.
it happens
Because you
that way.
cleared it.
If you recall, though, a little over a year ago, we had all the interest in the 8901 parcel. Everybody wanted the 8901 parcel. Nobody was looking at the 205 River Hills parcel. But as you know, the one that was ultimately approved withdrew his offer, and we haven't had an approved offer since.
But to your point, Councilmember Donahue, there is going to be a decision point for us at some point. I mean, there's going to be, but I think we need to look at, when we make that decision, we need to look at what are we going to put there permanently if we're going to go with a park, and what's that going to cost us long-term in terms of lost TIF revenue and lost, and how's that, because, you know, our financing, our loans are built on a certain, you know, certain assumptions, and selling that property was one of those assumptions.
Yes,
So we have a lot of decisions to make if we're going to change.
I understand. Quality of life, though, is a whole.
Well, I understand
is
too,
a factor.
but, yeah, it is, but we have, you know, we don't need to
That's
get
okay.
into this now, but
I do have one other question that doesn't have
Sure.
to do with, about the park, so I think you're finally done. No, it doesn't have to do with the park. You're good.
See, we play this game every day, so.
He's like, everything has to do with the park. On the Enigma property,
Yes, ma'am.
several months ago, we were talking about enhancements that the city could do to make that, and all the properties together, more attractive to people to come down there. And we expressed a desire for a conversation, if I recall this right, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, a conversation with the city manager that said, tell him that we are interested in enhancing the pond, whether it means once he's finished, we'll take down the wall, whatever. Not sell it to him, not give it to him, but that we were going to enhance it. Do you know where we are on that conversation?
Yes and no. Yes, that information was communicated with his engineer, who we reached out to try to get a better understanding of what that back property line would ultimately look like. So we have shared that. However, what we don't have, and I'll be honest, it kind of hasn't taken off yet with the change of city manager status, because there was some discussions on building out some of those features around that park. We did take a field trip to visit a similar pond in the city of Tampa that was designed by Mr. Trent Green. And myself and the former city manager met with Mr. Green and discussed what it took to make that come together. So there has been some initial foundation work done, but to say it's taken off yet, we haven't quite got there yet.
Okay,
But it certainly hasn't been forgotten,
okay, I'm glad to hear that.
because we do believe it will add value. It's just not, right now, we're just not able to report back anything substantial on that. We would probably have to, and I've actually spoken to Mr. Tench, who has a good relationship with a couple of our design firms. I've actually spoken to him about maybe having a design team come in and look at the property to see what can be done, to see, if nothing else, give us some idea of what we can do with it, and find out what kind of monies we would need to allocate in that direction to get the design work done.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No.
I have a question about that too. I think Councilmember Abel brought up, and it's been a few months ago now, but she had one of those ideas that as soon as she said it, everybody went, oh my gosh, how come we didn't see this, right? One of those aha moments. And that was that the city has a duty here kind of to, we have an active role to play in connecting these properties together to make this really kind of walkable, to bring people down there and give them a reason to stay, not just go in the store and buy what they want and leave, but to give them a purpose. And that would require connecting everything from Paragon down through, through the properties. Somehow we'd have to figure out how to get across Winn-Dixie or behind Winn-Dixie or something. And my concern is, and then to the Stormwater Park, which we really need to rename something besides Stormwater Park, but
Just call it a pond.
I call it Chicago Pond.
we need to call it something better than
Actually, on the
that, but-
plans, I think it's called Springdale Pond.
Well, anyway, but to connect,
So would that
to
one.
connect all this together, because we have a lot of green space down there, we have a lot of stuff going on. My concern is if we don't, and at the time, we were gonna, well, we're gonna reach out to some people in the community and, get some volunteers to come in and give us some, but I'm concerned about that approach. And I'm not concerned about taking advantage of the resources we have in our community. We have some very talented and skilled people. But if you take that approach, people get back to you when they get back to you because you're not paying them. I'm a little concerned about that because I'm really concerned somebody's going to come along and buy that parcel just south of Paragon and start working on site plans and projects, and the next thing you know, we've lost the opportunity to incorporate what we're trying to do. So time is kind of the essence here, or we're going to lose this opportunity. And so I don't know, I was hoping you were talking to Mr. Tench or somebody, not just about stormwater pond, that's part of it, but also about this connectivity with some type of trail or some features or, and I don't know, maybe to preserve this, we just clip off the corner of that parcel when we sell it so that we don't lose that opportunity, but you see what I'm saying? I don't want to lose this chance. Somebody comes along, gives us a great deal on this property, we sell it, they come up with a site plan, and then we say, oh, well, wait a minute, we wanted to put a trail. Well, you know, it's too late.
I can tell you that the theme of both conversations, and when I say both, I'm talking about the conversation that we had with Mr. Green and also the conversation that we had with the developer's engineer. Both conversations, the central flow and theme was just that. It was connectivity of the area and a walkable connectivity of the area. So those ideas are definitely kind of in the cooker right now. Not quite ready to give you
We
anything
need to-
further
We
on.
need to drive that though, and don't forget, you know, right across the street there, we have a library, which is, also needs to be kind of included in this, and I've been working with the county, very actively working with the county, and they are looking at some crosswalks to facilitate pedestrian crossing more in line with the library, which would feed right into the rest of it.
Sure, well, what I can do with your blessings is I can follow up and do a little bit deeper dive into that conversation I had with Mr. Tinch and look at some of our design resources that we already have, and come back to you with an idea of what it would take to put together a nice flow for all of that area to come together. Because it may be just that, it may be having to dedicate certain pieces of the property to just that. So if that's the direction that you would like me to pursue, then that's, as I said, a conversation that I've scratched the surface, but I can certainly do a deeper dive on.
Council, I think that was our intent
That was our
3 months
intent.
ago, right? Is that,
I think there was some preliminary discussions in the community, I'm not sure.
I think there was
I
too.
don't know which way it went, but it might have been Mr. Green as to that type of,
But there was real discussion here.
pardon me?
There was real discussion here to say to the city manager, we want you to approach.
Well, I think he did. I think
Yeah,
we did.
so-
We need to verify, we need to find out.
We just need to move forward.
Yeah,
That's
we
all.
need to find out, make sure that it is in the process.
You
But I believe it
understand
is.
where we are now, right? So where
Absolutely.
we're trying to get.
I think
Absolutely.
they're seeing the nod.
Absolutely, thank you.
Other questions, council members? Mr. Chambers?
Good.
City manager? City attorney? Anybody? Don't really have public comment, but there's public here. Would you, any questions that you'd like? Okay, very good. Very good. Then we will be adjourned. I'll see everybody at 6 o'clock.